Hey guys, it's Lou. So I ended up having to cut down the video that I was filming into two and split it into two videos because I ended up filming too much and it ended up being about 3 hours worth of footage, and I'm not the best editor, so it's kind of hard to shove everything down into like 30 to 40 minute videos. And a lot of the things that I talked about and I yapped about in those 3 hours worth of footage is actually necessary. So I had to cut everything down to two videos, and this is the beginning to part 2 of reading King of Gluttony. And yeah, I didn't think I had to film an intro, so this is me doing the intro to King of Gluttony part 2. So I hope you enjoy it. Go.
Okay, I'm back. Update. Stopped at chapter 24, and I read chapter 21, chapter 22, and chapter 23. So, a lot of things has happened since I updated you guys. The thing that we were talking about was the whole Valentine's Day ordeal where they had that whole interaction outside of the bathroom at the bar that she was at. So the next chapter is in Sebastian's point of view, and we kind of get his feelings towards that whole situation. And let me tell you, this dude is he's in love with her. No, he has to be in love with her. Like, he hasn't really admitted it to himself, but he's in love with her. Like, he has to be in love with her. Like, what are we talking about? He's not in love with her. Literally the first couple words in the next chapter is she consumed me, on some Pride and Prejudice stuff. Like, she consumed me body and soul kind of vibes. Like, he was so jealous because he was supposed to, I guess Valentine's Day is like a really busy day for a lot of the restaurants and the bars that his family owns. So he was just dropping in, right? He was just dropping in to check on the bar and the restaurant. And then he saw Maya there with a date, and he was like, why does she look so happy? Why does she look so happy? She usually looks miserable. And then he just started getting into his head and just being super jealous about it and just being like, what do you mean? What do you mean she's here with a guy that actually makes her look happy? What do you mean? And he's internally freaking out about it. It goes into him meeting up with her again for once. Because I'm pretty sure the last time they had a meeting, he had an issue, and it was actually a real issue. Because in Maya's head, she thought, oh, I wonder if it's a real issue, or I wonder if he made it up just not to see her. But it is actually an issue. He did have to go and look, overview some products or whatever, product evaluation or whatever the hell. And so this time they actually see each other, and it's so awkward, so awkward. Then in his head, she's like, dude, what am I gonna do? She's so pretty. I love her. I'm trying to stay away from her, but I can't because he's not saying I love her. I'm paraphrasing. Okay, basically, this man is in love with her, and he's trying to stay away from her so that he doesn't get his heart broken, because in his head, he thinks that Maya hates him, which ain't wrong. But I mean, after the whole Valentine's Day thing, I don't think she actually hates him. You know what I mean? Feels like a whole thing because it's just silence, and they're usually bickering with each other. But since the whole situation kind of got more messed up and kind of got more intense for them emotions wise, they just went super quiet, and there was just this deafening silence. And then Maya finally was like, you know what? I can't take this. I have to break it. And she brings up last week at the bar, because it's been a week since the whole Valentine's Day. She basically brings up, because I don't know if I said, but something that Sebastian told her was what changed? Got a kiss, and he was like, what changed? And she's like, what do you mean what changed? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. And in her head, she's like, what the hell is he talking about? I have no idea what he's talking about. And in his head, he's like, she knows damn well what I'm talking about. She just either doesn't remember, and it was that insignificant that she just didn't remember, or she's just choosing not to acknowledge it. We figure out that Maya just doesn't have not one clue what he's talking about. She's asking him after the deafening silence, what were you talking about when you asked me what changed? He's like, if you have to ask, it doesn't matter. Which, amazing comeback, by the way. She's like, we're too grown to be playing these games, Sebastian. You and I both know. She stopped and she was like, you know what, never mind. If you want to continue this hot and cold, act like a child, then fine. But don't expect me to indulge you anymore. And he said, that's rich coming from you. And she said, what the hell is that supposed to mean? And he goes on this rant, basically talking about how all of the dates are insipid. Like, having all these dates with these insipid men, pretending you give a shit about any of them when you know deep down that you don't. And he says, you accuse me of blowing hot and cold, fine, but at least I'm not the one stringing people along because I'm afraid of falling behind in some invisible race that I never signed up for in the first place. He's basically calling her out. And I was so gagged. I was like, oh my god, he's not saying this right now. She's like, you can use your parents' ultimatum as an excuse, but you've been fooling yourself for long before that. And she said, they're not insipid, and I'm not stringing people along. I'm trying to find someone who's a good match. It's called stepping out of my comfort zone. You should try it sometimes. And in his internal monologue, he said, I have, and it didn't work out too fucking well, did it? Because I'm guessing we still haven't figured this out. I still haven't gotten to the point. Sorry, my knee. I still haven't got to the point where they tell us, like, hey, this is what happened back then. You know what I mean? Pretty sure he kind of came out with his feelings and like told her, and in some way, maybe he took it wrong. She maybe it's like a whole miscommunication. I'm guessing it's a miscommunication. Usually it's a miscommunication. I'm guessing she took it wrong, or she didn't know what was happening. So she was like, she just brushed it off, and he took it as a rejection, and he was like heartbroken about it. And he was just like, you know what? Screw this. So that's what was going on. And so that's why he's thinking that. And he says to her, that's not hard when your comfort zone is 2 feet wide, and you honestly trying to tell me that Zach is your idea of a good match? She said, his name is Zach, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Otherwise, I wouldn't have agreed on a second date with him. In fact, I'm bringing him to my cousin's wedding. What do you mean you're bringing him to my cousin's wedding? He's like, what do you mean? Yes, I'll see him there. I can't wait to see him. She said, you're going? He said, of course. In his inner monologue, he goes, Maya's cousin's wedding was a big deal. Everyone I knew was flying to India for the festivities, but my family was no exception. And she said, who are you going with? Because obviously she's jealous too. And he was like, no one you know. He's not going with anyone. Like, he wasn't planning on going with anyone. He's just like, yeah, I feel sorry for her already. But like, clearly she's jealous. Baby, clearly you're jealous and closely him. Because what do you mean you're going with someone? But also, why should you be bothered if you're going with someone? And he literally just called you out on the whole, oh, well, why are you dating these people if you don't actually care for them? And she's like, I do care for them. What are you talking about? That's why I'm going with them to my cousin's wedding. You don't actually fucking care for them. She doesn't actually care. And now she's jealous because he's bringing a date. I don't know. They're just a little toxic, and I kind of love it. Like, basically accuses her of wasting his date's time, which he kind of already did that. And she's like, I'm not wasting my time. Like I said, I wouldn't have asked him to be my plus one if I didn't like him. He's cute, he's nice, he's agreeable. He said, so are puppies, but you probably don't want to marry one. I was like, okay, Aaron Warner, what are you talking about? If you've read the Shatter Me series, Shatter Me series is one of my favorite, if not my favorite series. And there's a line in the book where, so she's basically describing the guy that she's with at the time, and then he's like, well, so are dogs. You could just get a dog if you want someone who's nice and dependable and da 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 da. And so when I read this, I just got flashbacks. I was like, oh, that's literally Aaron. What are you talking about? Maybe not. She's like, you think you know me so well, but you don't. And he's like, yes, I do. And she said, then please enlighten me. Oh, did he enlighten her? How much he knows her. He's like, fine. You hate yes men. So you want someone who will support you. But who'll also call you on your bullshit when it inevitably arises. You need someone who's not afraid of your ambition and who won't be intimidated by your success. Their intellectual curiosity should match yours, and they need to hold their own in a conversation because you fucking love to argue. But you can't respect anyone who doesn't give as good as they get. You're not just looking for a partner, you're looking for an equal. But the reason your search has failed so far is because you have no equals. The best you can hope for is someone who can keep up with you. But I regret to inform you that Zach, the bleach blonde, is not it. No matter how much you try to convince yourself he is. And then she shut the hell up. And she's like, sometimes I really hate you. And he said, I know. And that's where it cuts off. And then it skips over to him being in a bar, not drinking because he has a thing with alcohol. And he's drinking water at a bar, which doesn't make sense. You could drink water anywhere, but he's at a bar. And Dante, of all people, comes up to him. If you don't know who Dante is, if you haven't read the rest of the series, if you haven't read the rest of the series, Dante and Vivian's book was the first book, and it's King of Wrath, I'm pretty sure. But anyways, Dante comes up and is like, you look miserable. You look like shit. What's wrong with you? Sebastian's like, why are you sitting with me? One, why are you sitting with me? And two, why are you asking if I'm okay? Dante was like, what has you moping around the club on a Tuesday afternoon? Because he ends up going to the Valhalla Club. And the Valhalla Club is like this super, because they're all millionaires and billionaires and like super rich people. And so it's basically like a club, like a spa and like a boxing club and like a fencing club. Like they hold a lot of stuff at this club and they have a bar there. And it's like super exclusive. Like only some people go to this club. It's called the Valhalla Club. And he goes to this club and Dante's a part of the member. He's one of the members that goes to the club, and he goes up and he's asking and he's saying, hey, what has you moping around at the club on a Tuesday afternoon? And Sebastian's like, nothing important, I'm not moping. And Dante calls him out on his shit and was like, yes, you are. Sebastian, because Dante and Vivian's book is an arranged marriage. They basically hate each other in this arranged marriage. And so ends up telling Dante about like asking him, you didn't like Vivian when you first got engaged, right? And Dante was like, it was a complicated situation, but no, I didn't. He says, and she didn't like you. And he said, no. Sebastian was like, so how did you go from hating each other to falling in love and having a kid? Because they have a kid now. Tay said, it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't like a switch flipped one day and we were suddenly in love. It took months before I admitted to myself that I might not hate her. And it took even more time for me to tell her. Sebastian says, did you know how she was going to react before you told her? They said, no one ever knows when it comes to this stuff. And if they do, they're lying. The same. What would you have done if she didn't feel the same? Dante kind of was offended by that. I was like, why would you ask me that? That's fucked up. And Sebastian was like, it's hypothetical, indulge me. And Dante said, if I sensed that she had even a bit of affection towards me, which she did, I would have tried to change her mind. That was basically what I had to do after we ran into some obstacles during our engagement. Basically, Dante's over here giving Sebastian advice, and then Sebastian is like asking a lot of questions about Vivian and Dante's relationship because it's like the closest situation to his situation with Maya. And the rest of his friends wouldn't really understand or would kind of just like see through him and be like, well, you're talking about Maya. This is a situation about Maya. But he didn't want anyone prying. And that's why he kind of confided in Dante, of all people. Because Dante is known for being a little grumpy. And he's not known for talking about feelings and stuff like that. So when Dante sat down to talk to Sebastian, that really surprised me. Because I was like, he of all people talking to him. But then thinking on it, like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, Vivian and Dante's relationship is quite similar. It's not the same at all. But, like, it was this thing that comes to Sebastian mind. He kind of points out, like, why are you asking all these questions? Like, have you fallen in love on us? Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, I was curious, that's all. Love isn't for me. And I was like, right. And that was the end of chapter 21. In chapter 22, we get into the wedding. We go to the cousin's wedding. Now we're at the cousin's wedding, and point of view, and he's looking around, and he's like taking in all the decor, and like Indian weddings take a week. They have these crazy big shot weddings that are like a week, and there's like a whole lot of ceremonies and a whole lot of things that happen in a week for these types of weddings. He's talking at the beginning of the chapter. He's talking with Maya's grandmother, again. Because in Maya's birthday, she's like, hey, I lost an earring. Can you go find it in the observatory in this room where there's no one in there except for, oh my god, it's Maya. He basically, Miss Grandma is plotting. Miss Gupta is plotting. Because she went up to him again and was like, hey, I lost another earring. Can you go look for it on the dance floor? And so he's like, okay. Okay. And he goes, and then he sees Maya, and she's standing there with his sisters, and she's like in this trance of like, oh my god, she's so beautiful, and like, oh my god, she's smiling, and basically falling in love with her. And then he goes up to her, and he's like, your grandmother sent me on a mission again. She lost a ruby. Was like, she's gone her entire life without losing a piece of jewelry, and yet she's managed to lose 2 in the past 2 months. 4 months. Strange. He's like, very. He's like, you look beautiful. And she's kind of dumbfounded by that and was like, thank you, so do you. I mean, you look nice. He's like, demoted from beautiful to merely nice. That hurts Sal. I also want to know why her nickname is Sal. Because we don't know why her nickname is Sal. And if we do know, if it was pointed out already in the book, I don't remember. It's about her date. She's like, oh, I didn't end up bringing him. Where's yours? She's like, I didn't bring one. She was like, oh. And then they had a little dance too, where he says, about the last few weeks, I'm sorry for the way I behaved. It wasn't right or fair. She's like, did you just apologize to me? Because they never apologized to each other. Like, again, they had this like whole academic rivalry thing going on, and they were really snarky towards each other, and they just never apologized about any of it. So him apologizing is really rare. She said, I didn't tell you earlier, but thank you for the locket. It's one of the most beautiful gifts I've ever received. He said, you're welcome. He says, out of curiosity, Maya says, out of curiosity, why didn't you bring your date? She wasn't the one I wanted to be here with. Oh, okay, sir. Oh, okay. Now we're in chapter 23, and that's where it cuts. It goes to... Let me tell you, they have a moment. Let me tell you, they have a fucking moment. The moment happens outside. It's like, the chapter starts off, it's in Maya's point of view, and she's like in her head, and she's like, she wasn't the one I wanted to be here with, and he was like, I'm not okay, and she's kind of internally freaking out about what Sebastian told her. So who did you want to be here with? And he says, that's not how it works, Sal. One question per person. It's my turn. Why didn't you bring a date? After that, she had gone home and updated her RSVP and added Zach to it, and like sent her Zach the information and like the wedding itinerary and whatnot. But at the end, I chickened out and canceled, saying it was too late for me to add a plus one. And in her internal monologue, she says, I knew deep down he was just a placeholder, because when I pictured myself dancing with someone, I didn't see Zach, and I didn't see the dozens of men that I'd been on dates with. I saw dark hair and amber eyes and tan skin and an infuriating smirk. I heard the trace of a French accent and the familiar cadence of a lazy drawl. Anything else felt wrong, like I was trying to squeeze into shoes that were a size too small. I'm really freaking out about the fact that she just kind of admitted that to herself and was like, you know what, why do I like him? And then she lies to Sebastian and answers him with, Zach couldn't make it work. He says, you're lying. Called her out, straight up, just says, you're lying. And I love their honesty with each other. I really do love how honest and just like cut the bullshit they are with each other, because that's such a, like, I'm a very honest person. I'm like an extremely honest person. Like, I will tell you how it is. I don't care. And so I love how he can just call her out on her shit. After Sebastian says, oh, you're lying, she kind of has a freak out moment and just leaves. Like, she gets off the dance floor and leaves and runs out and goes outside with Maya. And she was like, I shouldn't have followed me. I wanted to be alone. And he was like, second lie of the night. Care to tell me another so we can make it an even 3? And she said, stop it. I am so sick of you acting like you know everything all the time. Maybe I am a liar, but at least I have the courage to give you an answer. You never answered my question earlier, Sebastian. Who did you really want to be here with? Because you can't say, because either you're you're either afraid or you don't know. You didn't bring the poor girl because of what? You're afraid of intimacy? She's too easy, so you got bored? Or maybe it's because you're Sebastian Laurent and no one can meet your impossible standards. How long did you string her along before you decided she wasn't good enough? And Sebastian was just looking at her like, really? And she's like, tell me, like, what's wrong with you? Just answer my question. He doesn't answer her. She goes, does she know what happened in the bar on Valentine's Day? Do you? And he cuts her off. And he's like, no, she doesn't know. And I didn't string her along because she never fucking existed. I never asked anyone to be my date. That's your answer. Are you happy now? She's like, then why did you say that? Then why did you say you did? And she was like, for someone so smart, you're so goddamn clueless. They're getting closer and closer to each other, and they're in like this garden area outside of this like huge party tent. He's like, I told you I had a date because you were going to bring that guy from the bar, and I couldn't stand the thought of seeing you two together, so I lied. And she said, that doesn't make sense, you hate me. And she's like, and he's like, I never hated you, not once, not ever. And inside and internally, me, I'm freaking out. It's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I've hated you. If I hated you, I wouldn't be here right now. I never hated you, not even after what happened. And in Maya's internal monologue, she says, it wasn't his first time alluding to something I'd done in the past. It could be any of the thousands of times I insulted or one-upped him, but I had a feeling he wasn't referring to those. It was something deeper. And then he gives her, and she's like internally freaking out, just looking at him, being like, oh my god, what's going on? And then he gives her an ultimatum, and she said, you said you wanted to be alone. So I'll give you a choice. I can walk away right now into that tent, right back into that tent, and we'll pretend this never happened, or I can stay. What do you want? What do you want? I don't know. What do you want? It's not that hard. What do you want? On some, the Notebook. On some Notebook shit. Says, don't tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. No more lies. Do you want me to leave? She doesn't say shit. She doesn't say shit. All she does is she just nods her head. No, don't go. And he kisses her. Then he kisses her. And they have this like a really good, passionate kiss. And then they're like going ham. And they're like really kissing now. And then her sister walks out. And is like calling her name. It's like, Maya, are you out here? Hello. And she's drunk. Her sister's drunk. So, thank God. Because they're like kissing, and then they like shove each other apart, and they're like, oh my god, my sister's here, she's looking for me. And she kind of like freaks out. It's like, oh my god, what am I doing? It was like, hey, they're taking pictures, we gotta go take a picture. And she's like, okay, I'm going. And then they leave Sebastian outside, and she goes inside and takes pictures, and that's it. That's the whole chapter. And those were the three chapters that I read. So that's the update. They kissed. I was very excited about it. It was, from what I read, it was really good. And the grandma. Props to the grandma, because she knew what she was doing, sending Sebastian onto that dance floor. And again, I love their honesty with each other. And even though they be playing games, they still know how to communicate very well. And I'm excited to see where else this book goes. So I will update you guys. You guys will see me in a second. But like, I will see you on Monday. Okay, bye. I'll see you later.
Update. I read 3 more chapters. This is Tuesday, by the way. The last time I updated you guys, I'm pretty sure was Friday. I think it was Friday. And I stopped at chapter 27 now. I read chapter 24, chapter 25, and chapter 26, and I stopped at chapter 27. To recap, 24 was insane. Chapter 24 was insane. The only things I can really say is stairwell and what do you mean she ran after? I mean, pretty valid. okay, pretty valid that she ran away. But also, what do you mean? What do you mean you ran away after all that? I freaked out. I was low-key freaking out for her. She's such like a... She kind of has OCD. She plans everything. She's a planner. She's like Monica from Friends. Like, she plans everything. She wants everything to be good and correct the way that she wants it, you know? And this was a little different. It was a little messy, and it was spontaneous, and it wasn't planned at all, and made her feel a lot of things. And then she ran because she freaked out. She was like, I don't know what to do, and she just... Chapter 25 was just him being so down bad for her. Like, Sebastian is so down bad for her, and I love that. Like, I love the fact that he's like, I want to be with her all the time. I want to touch her. I want to kiss her. I want to do all this with her. And like, he like is so in love with her already too. Like, he is so in love with her already, and it's insane. Like, I love it. Like, oh my god, what do you mean? I'm loving this book so much. I really am loving this book so much. After that, I think it was like the next day, and they were on a boat ride, and chapter 25 was them being on a boat ride, and them being on that boat ride, like arguing and bickering with each other and like looking at each other with like knowing looks was... Oh my god. And it's the last day of the wedding, I'm pretty sure, because it's like a week wedding, and it was like the last day of the festivities, and the next day they were flying out back to New York. And these past 3 chapters are so good, like really well written. I'm loving the characters. I'm loving the things that are happening in the characters. The whole thing with them arguing on the boat, or like bickering with each other on the boat, and then and then them flipping the boat because they were standing. Dude, that was crazy. And then them being sent back to the hotel for basically the rest of the day by the aunties because, yeah, like little kids just being put in timeout because they flipped over the boat, and they flipped over the whole family on that boat just because they were bickering and arguing with each other. Chapter 26, oh my god. Like, them going to her hotel room and like him be like, no, we have to talk right now. Like, you just lock yourself in your hotel room and like not talk to me and try to wait me out. And like him knowing that she was thinking that, because I'm pretty sure in that moment she was thinking that she was just gonna go to her hotel room, change, because they're soaking wet. Like, they just jumped out the lake that they were having a boat ride on. And she was thinking that in that moment, like how she was gonna just sit in her hotel room and just wait for him to just give up trying to talk to her. He was like, you're not doing that. And then they both went to her hotel room, and she changed, and they had that whole conversation where Sebastian like literally spewed his heart out to her. Oh my god. And then she just couldn't give him an answer. Oh god. Maya, get your shit together. I mean, like, she's so real for that, because I don't know what I would have done in that moment. Like, in that situation with them together, like, I really don't know what I would have done. But at the same time, you dumb bitch, get your stuff together, get your shit together. My god, why can't you, like... Like, I understand you're confused and you don't know if it's gonna work out. If you say yes, you don't know if it's gonna work out. If you say no, you're gonna lose him. Like, I know, I understand, but like, dude, do something. Don't just sit there and say nothing and let him come to conclusions. And that's exactly what she did. She let him come to conclusions, and then he came to conclusions and he left. He left her this time. He ran out the door this time. And then she's just like bawling her eyes out in the hotel room. And then like it cuts to them. Like, there was a dinner that was happening for the last day of the festivities of the wedding. And she goes down for dinner and like gets her shit together and sucks it up and just goes downstairs and is like looking for him to see if he's there. And her sister basically says like, oh yeah, no, he didn't tell you there was like a work emergency and he flew out today instead of yesterday until tomorrow. It's like, what do you mean he left? And then cut back to when he was in the hotel room and he was spewing his heart out. Basically, after she just kind of kept quiet and didn't say yes or no, he came to conclusion and was like, right, I guess I have my answer. I should have known, you know, like, but he was like, I thought that after the past few months, it's been long since the letter, I thought that things might have changed, but of course they haven't. It was my fault for thinking otherwise. And she's like, what letter? What letter? What letter are you talking about? What are you talking about? And he's like, you know, Maya, you're entitled to your feelings, but I was honest with you, and I thought you'd at least have the decency to not pretend you don't know what I'm talking about. He just walked out. And then, like, in her brain, she was, like, racking her brain, like, what do you mean, what letter? What are you talking about? What letter? Diana, what letter? Diana, what letter? If you know what I'm talking about, oh my god. If you don't know that reference, it's with an and with an E. It's from the past 3 chapters. Were good. Super good. I like how they kind of continued the conflict. It's a little slow burn. We got a little something, but we didn't get everything. Does that make sense? So we had the physical connection. Now we're trying to see the emotional connection, which we're already getting that from Sebastian, but we're trying to see if we can get that from Maya. So like I'm like, I have like maybe 20 more chapters plus an epilogue. There's like 43 plus an epilogue. I have this much of the book left, about that much, and it's Tuesday. I didn't read yesterday, which was Monday, and I didn't read much today because I just spent my time editing. So yeah, oh my god, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what else happens in the book, and I will probably read more tomorrow, and I will catch you guys up more tomorrow. So I will see you then. Okay. Okay, hey guys, so I'm back and I have an update. There's been a lot going on. I'm on chapter 35, I believe. Chapter 35. I don't remember what chapter I last updated you guys on. I think I was on like a chapter 20. I don't know. I actually don't remember. Okay, so the last time I updated you guys, I was on chapter 27, and now I'm on chapter 35. I stopped at chapter 35. I didn't read it. And there's been a lot going on. So the last time that I updated you guys, they had like an argument. And Sebastian confessed to Maya, basically like his love for her and stuff like that, and Maya just didn't give him an answer. The last time I updated you guys, that was going on, and chapter 27 was very short, like literally 2 pages, and we got into, what was it? Basically, we left off on Sebastian telling Maya that he gave her a letter or something with a letter, right? And Maya was like, what are you talking about? What letter? I never got a letter. Diana, what letter? And in Maya's point of view, she doesn't remember a letter. And in Sebastian's point of view, he does remember a letter. And we figure out what happens with that letter. So in the next chapter, which is chapter 27, which is where I left off, I read it. And it was Maya looking through her old things and just like trying to figure out what the hell Sebastian was talking about. What do you mean in letter? What are you talking about? And she went through all of her old stuff and like through her old notebooks, and she found her letter. She read that letter. Now the letter, what was inside that letter literally made me cry. Like I was literally crying. I was like, what are you talking about? He gave her this. Like, what do you mean he wrote her this in high school? Just didn't like ever get it. Like she never got it. And so she read that whole letter, and then it cuts to chapter 28, and chapter 28 was basically Sebastian like going through it. Like they hadn't seen each other in like a week since that whole argument happened in India at her cousin's wedding. And he was going through it. Like he was heartbroken, like so down bad, like drinking, which he never really drinks. He was smoking and he was gambling, and it was like a whole fucking thing. And basically he was going through it. And that chapter ends off with Maya showing up at his door. Now, mind you, he's like barely sobering up from a night out with his friends that went. I'll tell you, this man was so drunk. This man was so drunk he couldn't even put the key in his goddamn door to open his door. Anyways, he got there. Someone rings the doorbell. It's Maya. Maya goes in. She's like, can we talk? And she's holding the letter, wearing his sweatshirt that he had given her back in Vermont. And he's just like, what the fick? And then it turns into chapter 30, I think, and it's in her point of view. And she basically like spews her guts out and was like, I'm sorry that I didn't give you a straight answer in that moment. Like, I just started overthinking everything and I was stressing out and I was scared that what happens if we try to do something and like try to continue with the relationship and then it didn't work out, and then what happens if I lost you, and I was just scared, and I'm sorry I didn't give you an answer, but the answer now is yes. I do want to be with you. I do want to have something with you, and I want to do things the right way. And Sebastian was like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't put me through this again. Like, you already rejected me once. Like, I don't want this to happen again. Like, you're gonna break my heart. Like, basically just trying to refuse her. But he, mind you, he's so down bad for her that he's still listening to her, and like, it's like still open that door, still let her in to his apartment, like everything like that. And before I tell you more, because obviously it's their book, they end up like fixing things and getting together and trying things out. But before I get to that, I'm gonna remind you that he gave her a letter and she didn't know. Not only did she find the letter, read it, but he, in that moment when she went to his apartment and was like, hey, I'm sorry, I had never seen this letter. I'd never found this letter. I'd never seen it in my life. I never read it. I never knew the context of it. And he was like, you're lying. You're lying. You're lying. And I was like, what are you talking about? Why is he lying? Like, she could have easily just never gotten that letter. But then he was like, you sent me back a letter. You responded to me. You responded to me. He's like, what are you talking about? You never got that letter. You never saw that letter. You're lying because you responded to me. She's like, what the fuck are you talking about, responded to me? And in my head, reading it in Maya's point of view, I was like, what do you mean she responded to you? What do you mean you got a letter from her after you sent her that letter? She had never opened that letter. Like, she literally found it in one of her notebooks, like tucked into one of her notebooks, and it was never opened or anything. So I was like, what do you mean he responded to her? Like, what do you mean you responded to him? Like, what do you mean you got a letter back from her? And then he recited that letter back to her. And it was basically saying, like, hey, it was really rough. It basically was a rejection and saying, hey, never mention again. I still want to be friends with you. It was like a very cordial, but also very like flat, like cold version of a rejection from her. And she was just like, I would have never said that. Like, even if I didn't have the same feelings for you, I wouldn't have rejected you in that way, you know? And that was like her argument. And they basically kind of go back and forth, and she was like, well, I'm sorry about that. I don't even care about the letter we're thinking about right now. Like, I'm sorry that you thought that I rejected you earlier because I didn't mean it. You just didn't let me have time to contemplate things and whatever. And basically a week went by and I've made my decision, and the decision is yes. And they basically like, okay, we're together, but we're doing this the right way. Like, let me set up a date. Let me take you out. Let me do these things for you. And that's what Sebastian told her. And so it cuts to the end of the chapter, and then it's the letter that he wrote to her. And oh my God, that letter broke me. The 18-year-old who has never been in a relationship, that letter broke me. I was like, what do you mean? He spewed his freaking heart out to her, and he thought she had rejected him by sending him a letter that was so cold-hearted, that had such a cold-hearted response. And then he just like went on for years, literally 14 years, not mentioning anything about the letter, not mentioning anything about his feelings, not mentioning anything, and just yearning for her very silently for 14 years. Anyways, they get together, and then it cuts to their first date, which takes place about a week after they have that whole conversation. And he takes her out on this like perfect freaking date, dude. Like, he takes her out all around New York, and they basically go to a bunch of different food places, like restaurants. Like, they go out for breakfast, and then they go out to like butcher shops, and they like shop for groceries, and then they go out for lunch, and then they have dessert. And like, dude, I want someone to do that for me. What are you talking about? Like, I want to have a date like that. Like, they were just eating food and talking and having a grand old time and like walking through parks and stuff. And I was like, dude, it's just stressing me out. And then after that, they kind of like make it a thing to keep their relationship a secret for like a couple months, you know, like a couple weeks, a couple months, like till they feel ready to go and tell their friends and to tell their family, because their families are family friends, and they tell her mom. They don't, they're in such early stages of the relationship. They don't know if telling their parents is gonna become like a bigger thing than it should be at such an early stage in a relationship, because like the whole she's gonna get in an arranged marriage if she doesn't find someone to marry and love by the end of the year type thing. So they were like, okay, let's keep it under wraps for right now, and it's just like let us settle in this whole thing. And before I go on, I need to tell you guys something. I forgot to tell you guys the last time I updated you guys. I think I forgot to tell you guys the last time I updated you guys that Sal, because Sebastian calls, his nickname for her is Sal, is short for salutatorian. I think that's how you pronounce it, which is a lower version of valedictorian. And that's what Maya got when they were in boarding school together. She got salutatorian. I had mentioned that I didn't know the reason why he had called her Sal, and I was trying to figure out the reason why he kept calling her Sal, and that was like the nickname. But that's why, because of salutatorian. Oh, I'm not even done. The first date. Okay, so the first date ended with him cooking her dinner at his apartment, and she helped him. He cooked her dinner on the first date, and then they sat down and they had food. And she's a vegetarian, by the way. She doesn't eat meat, so he cooked her a whole different meal compared to him, because I think he had like potatoes and steak or whatever, and she had pasta. And oh my god, that was just really cute. I love that. I think this is my favorite book out of the Kings of Sin series. I think they might be my favorite couple. Like, I am really loving Maya and Sebastian, like truly loving them. Now, while they're having their dinner and they're talking and stuff, and they're kind of opening up with each other and stuff like that, Eb kind of reveals to her like the reason why I'm having my doubts about the whole cooking and being a chef thing. Like, he tells her about his deal with his dad, started showing doubts, and was like, started opening up to her, and was like, do you remember the restaurant opening that I did? Which I'm guessing is the same. I'm guessing that was the night in Prague that we were talking about earlier. I'm guessing what he had referred to as the night in Prague was the launch that he did, the soft launch that he did with the restaurant. And he basically, because Maya didn't know about the whole him becoming the chef or being the chef at that soft launch, and like having someone die at the restaurant and stuff, and he basically opened up to her about that, and she kind of reassured him, like, it happens, like it might have been the worst nightmares, but like, if I know anyone to go against their worst fear and continue on and keep fighting through something, fighting for wanted, it would be you. Like, basically saying like, hey, you can get through this, you're okay, like, you're such a good chef, you have amazing food, you make amazing food, this is something that you've most likely always wanted, like, you should do it, you should stop doubting yourself. They had a cute little opening up moment. And then after that, chapter 33, they have like 2 months away until the collaboration launches, and they're just doing work and whatnot and doing a couple of other things that I can't really talk about right now because what? Yeah, anyways, they said I love you. In chapter 33, they said I love you, and it was really cute, and I loved that moment. And yeah, they're really cute, dude. But the thing is, it's kind of stressing me out, because what do you mean they're already happily together and like doing stuff together, and there's this much left of the book? Like, what happens in this? Like, the soft launch has to happen, them telling her parents and their parents has to happen, and like a bunch of other things has to happen, but like, what are you talking about? That's basically my update. That was from chapter 27 to chapter 35. That's what was happening. And yeah, like I mentioned, right now they still have the soft launch, or not the soft launch, but the collaboration launch, to see if that's going good. Maya's still being very persistent on her Pittsburgh hunch, which I mentioned earlier. Sebastian still trying to figure out how to become the chef, you know, probably gonna see him work through that and stuff like that. Oh, we have to figure out who the hell sent that letter to her, or to him, after he sent that letter to Maya back in boarding school. I feel like that's gonna come up again, because what do you mean he got sent a letter that was from Maya but not actually from Maya? Like, who wrote that letter to him? Like, what the hell's going on there? We gotta figure that out. And then the whole, yeah, telling their parents, figuring out how that's gonna happen, figuring out what the reaction is gonna be to that and stuff. And yeah, that's what I got. That's all I got. That's my update. Don't know what to tell you. Here's the update for today. It is Thursday. I actually stopped at chapter 42, which means that I only have a couple chapters left of this book. And there has been a lot going on, let me tell you. The last chapter that I had stopped at was chapter 35, I'm pretty sure. And Maya had gone out with her friends to go bowling, and then the boys ended up meeting them there because they were doing something else. They were playing poker or something. Yeah, they ended up telling their friends, like, hey, we're together, surprise, surprise, whatever. And then they were hanging out with their friends. And then at the end of chapter 35, her sister sees them kiss in that bowling alley. So her sister knows. And she pissed me off, dude. Her sister pissed me off. Because, what do you mean you're not going to keep a secret for your sister? Like, me personally, have a sister, and I love my sister, and she's literally 9 years older than me. Like, she's 26, I'm 18. She literally, like, I will keep a secret for her like this. Okay, I will keep her secret for, like this. That's just the sister thing. Like, you keep a secret for me, I keep a secret for you. No one has to know, it's whatever. But she just refuses to keep a secret. Maya's parents and Sebastian's parents were having a dinner because, you know, they're family friends. They've been friends for the longest time ever. They were having a dinner, and Naya basically went up to Maya after seeing them kiss and was like, if you don't tell our parents and Sebastian's parents at this dinner, then I will do it myself. And I was like, you little bitch. Because the whole point of them, like, keeping it a secret from their families was because they wanted to enjoy each other's time and figure out their own emotions and figure out their own relationship until after the launch. And the launch at this point in time was 2 months until then. So they wanted to keep it a secret the other 2 months. And then Naya's little bitch ass was like, well, you have to tell them now or I will. And I was like, oh my god. I don't like her. Cut to chapter 36, which is them going to that dinner. Pretty regular, you know, it's just pretty regular dinner. Like, Maya's dad, her mom, and then her 2 sisters, and then it's Sebastian, his mom, and then his dad. And they're having this dinner, right? And it's a little weird. Like, we're in Sebastian's point of view, and he's kind of taking notice. Basically, Sebastian catches on to, like, a weird vibe going on around the dinner. And he ends up being correct with the weird vibe because during the end of the dinner, which I think they were eating dessert or something, Neil, which is Maya's dad, he pipes up and starts talking, okay? Neil's speaking to Michael, which is Sebastian's father. And Neil was like, okay, how was the tennis tournament in Valhalla last week? I'm sorry I couldn't make it. My meeting in Chicago took longer than expected. Michael responds with, it was fine. Server won, someone else won. You should have seen the shock on everyone's face. Neil didn't join in. Good to hear. What about afterwards? How were your meetings? Right? And Michael said they were fine, nothing earth-shattering. And Neil said, really? So there's nothing you want to tell me? It was like what? And then Neil goes on and says, like, why you had dinner with Charles Whittaker. And Charles Whittaker is basically Neil's, like, biggest competition. He owns an opposing company. Michael had a dinner with Charles Whittaker, said a lot, okay? And basically Neil is pissed off because his best friend, he's been best friends with for years and had him as his best man at his wedding, and, like, they've been family friends for years. They've been friends for years, okay? Friends with years. And his best friend decided to go and talk with one of his ops and have a meeting with one of his ops and have a business meeting at that with one of his ops. It wasn't like, oh yeah, you guys went out for a dinner. You know damn well, especially in the world that they work in and that they live in, that dinner had to be talking about some kind of business, right? Like, it had to be a big thing. Like, even though it was like, it's not a big thing, I don't know why you're saying that, because they get into a whole argument, dude. Like, they get into a whole blown argument in front of each other's families. Neil basically feels betrayed, and Michael is just like, I don't know why you're being so dramatic. I don't know why you're taking this as such a big thing. It's not a big thing. It's not a big deal, whatever to whatever. And basically they get into an argument and they get into a falling out and they stop talking to each other. And they forbade each other's families from talking to each other's families. To the point where Neil's wife, which is Maya's mom, and Michael's wife, which is Sebastian's mom, they were supposed to take a trip to Switzerland, and they had to cancel it because they had that big of a falling out. Because Neil likes honesty, and he likes trust, and he feels betrayed and he feels like Michael was a traitor to him because he went behind his back and took a meeting or took a dinner with one of his enemies, and he felt betrayed and was like, I don't know if I could ever trust you again, so we're gonna stop being friends. And Michael was like, you're being such a baby, you're being so dramatic, I don't know what the fuck was wrong with you, it was just a dinner. Basically, they just arguing. Mind you, at the end of this dinner, Maya and Sebastian had planned and come to the conclusion of, okay, we have to tell our parents that we're together. But that didn't happen because they all end up fighting, and then they left, and then yeah. And that's what happened in chapter 36. In chapter 37 was Maya basically dealing with her father's backlash and was like, what the hell is going on? Like, we have to get our fathers to start talking to each other. And it's basically been like a week or two, them not talking to each other for 2 weeks. And they forbidded each other from hanging out with one another's friends. So Maya and Sebastian can't be together in any way other than a work setting. And they're so respectful of their parents. Well, Maya's the more respectful one. Sebastian doesn't really care, I don't think. But he also cares to not get Maya in trouble with her dad. Her dad would see it as a betrayal if she was talking to Sebastian or talking to the Laurents, period. And basically they spend like 2 weeks not seeing each other, not talking to each other, like having to take precautions, like changing the names on their phones so that if they get a text at the wrong time, it doesn't pop up as Sebastian or Maya or whatever. Like, basically, there's a lot going on for 2 weeks. And this lasts for 2 months because we're cutting until the launch, the collaboration launch that started this whole spiel, this whole book. Sebastian's in the kitchen, Maya's in the front of the house, telling, hey, everything's going smoothly. Okay, she's greeting everyone, she's making sure everyone sits down, everyone's enjoying their meals, yada yada yada. They have a shit ton of people there, food critics there, everything's going good, everything with the venue is going good. Sebastian seems a little stressed because Maya goes back to the kitchen and like checks on him, and he seems a little stressed, but he's okay. He's going through it, and everything is going good and great and grand and whatever, until it isn't. Okay? And all of a sudden, they hear a crash and they hear a scream because Maya went back into the kitchen to go and check on Sebastian, and then all of a sudden they hear a crash and a scream, and they come running out, and it's people throwing up and puking everywhere. It's like, what the hell is going on? How can this happen? What's going on? Basically, short story short, everyone had food poisoning because of the food, because of the lasagna, because they were serving frozen food lasagna. Basically, everyone got food poisoning, and then everyone went on crisis mode, and then Sebastian was having like fucking flashbacks, and he just like stood there like, oh my god, what do I do? Kind of have like a panic attack. And Maya was just like, oh shit. She like went into chaos mode and like started planning, and they got people there, they got people to help, and they were cleaning up, and then they called ambulances to make sure everyone was good. And like, dude, it was just crisis mode basically. It's been like a week since the launch, and it's the next chapter, which I don't really remember what chapter it is. Basically, it cuts to after a couple of weeks, or like I think it was a week. Ashton just wallowing in self-pity, literally wallowing in self-pity, because there's like this huge scandal, and they're going through crisis mode, and there's just a whole lot going on, and Sebastian's all in his head like, this is my fault, it's my fault that so many people got food poisoning, it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. And Maya shows up at his door, knocking, pounding on the door, talking about, if you don't let me in, I'm breaking down the door, yada yada yada. He lets her in. They're talking about how bad the situation is, and it's pretty freaking bad. And then Maya's basically comforting Sebastian because he took it upon himself to feel guilty for the whole situation. And in Prague wasn't actually the soft launch of that restaurant. It was him beating someone to a pulp, almost killing someone, because he was drunk and he was angry and he had all these pent-up emotions, and he let it out by almost killing someone. And that was the night in Prague, because after the whole soft launch, he went through this like drinking his way through Europe situation where he was just really, really down bad. And And so Sebastian explains that situation to Maya in this moment where she comes to his apartment and is basically comforting him after the whole collaboration launch disaster, basically just making him feel better. She was like, if anything, it wasn't your fault because we could have been sabotaged. And I was like, what do you mean we're going to be sabotaged? So cut back to Maya's inkling with the whole Pittsburgh case. Now, Maya had already thought that maybe because at the beginning of the book, Maya had a situation with her family's company where some of their products had made people sick, like it was a contamination issue, right? And she had this like inkling that maybe it wasn't a contamination issue and it was actually sabotage because they had fired someone and that person was a little crazy and whatever. She had a hunch, and we call this the Pittsburgh hunch. So after the Pittsburgh hunch, Maya was like, you know what? What happens if we were sabotaged? Like, what happens if the whole thing with the collaboration was also sabotaged? Because it's so iffy. Like, what do you mean everyone got food poisoning? You know what I mean? And it kicked in like this. Like, you know, like sometimes people don't get food poisoning so quickly, especially like it comes like a day or two after eating that type of food, and then you feel like shit, you know, like it festers, you know what I mean? So Maya can't stand the fact that Sebastian is wallowing in self-pity, so she gives him an out and was like, well, maybe we were sabotaged, right? And they start talking about how they have there's a possibility that they were sabotaged, and she pulls out this little like piece of foil, a little Ziploc baggie, and this piece of foil has like a blue label on it, and this blue label is the same label that's on a bottle of laxatives that can easily be traced, and those laxatives cause basically the same symptoms of food poisoning. And so she hired like a private investigator to look into the whole situation after the collaboration. And so basically there's just this huge thing of, oh my god, they could have been sabotaged. And that's what's going on in the book. 41. So I went from chapter 35 to chapter 41, and that's basically what happened. Stopped at chapter 42. My bad. I read chapter 41. And yeah, I have a couple chapters left, and I'm excited to see what's going on. To see where this goes. I want to know. Well, they were most likely sabotaged. I'm guessing they were most likely sabotaged. So I want to know why they were sabotaged. I want to know who did it. And I want to know what her parents or their parents' reactions are going to be when they finally tell them, hey, we're together. And that's what I'm waiting for. And so the next time I update you guys will be when I finish the book. So, toodles. Hey guys, it's Lou. Welcome back to the last update for King of Gluttony. Yay! This is the last update. I finished the book. Look, there's no marker or anything. There's nothing. I finished the book. Yay! Okay, it took me like 2 freaking weeks to finish King of Gluttony. It's okay because it's my first book review or whatever the hell I'm doing, and I really enjoyed the last couple chapters. I think the last time I updated you guys, I was pretty sure the last thing I updated you guys on was Maya having an inkling about how their collaboration launch was basically sabotaged. And it's true, they were sabotaged. And they entrusted Christian Harper, which is this guy from Twisted Lies. So if you've read the Twisted series by Anna Huang, you know that Christian Harper is the guy for the 4th book in the series. I think it's the 4th and last book, Twisted Lies. And he's this big like security CEO, and he like does private detective work and stuff like that. Maya and Sebastian hired him to look into the whole situation that happened with the collaboration launch that they did, where everyone just started throwing up and stuff, and he found very clear evidence that their biggest rival, or the Sing Corporation, which I think was Sing Foods or Sing Frozen Foods, their biggest rival, which I think is Charles Whittaker. And Charles Whittaker has his own like frozen food business company, whatever, and has been the biggest rival to Neil Singh, and he was behind the whole fiasco that was the collaboration launch with Sebastian and Maya's families and their collaboration. And we ended up finding out a lot of things. So last chapter that I had stopped on was chapter 42, and that was the last chapter that I had updated you guys was chapter 41. And so from chapter 42 to the end of the book, which is like 44 chapters plus an epilogue, so 45. And so chapter 42, it's Sebastian and his dad first. It's Sebastian and Michael sitting down and having a meeting with Charles Whittaker, because Neil and Michael had the whole discussion and like the whole falling out because of Michael having a meeting or like sitting down and having dinner with Charles Whittaker in the first place, which is Neil's like biggest rival, and he took it as like, you're a traitor, why are you having dinner with my rival, and falling out. And then chapter 42 is Sebastian and Michael sitting down and having a meeting with Charles Whittaker. And at first I'm like, what the hell's going on? What's going on? All right. But then we find out that Charles Whittaker was the one behind the sabotages. Not only the sabotage of the collaboration launch, but also the sabotage with the Pittsburgh fiasco. That whole situation was also Charles Whittaker's fault, because he was basically sabotaging and playing dirty against his biggest rival to get ahead and to like have the better company and whatever the fuck. Basically, he's a piece of shit who was doing that. And he sabotaged the collaboration, he sabotaged the whole Pittsburgh accident. So Miss Maya was indeed correct on both of her little hunches. And we end up finding out because Michael and Neil end up coming back together and actually working together to kind of take down Charles Whittaker, because Maya and Sebastian had called in Christian Harper to be like, hey, can you do an investigation on this? And when he found out the information about this stuff, they basically went to their parents, their dads, and was like, hey, look, we were sabotaged. And then they came together because it was a work thing. And remember how they stopped talking except for work. So this was work related. So they came together, and when Michael and Sebastian were talking to Charles Whittaker and like having this little dinner, and then boom, gave him like a folder with all the evidence of him being a schemer and a scammer and a little shit. In comes Neil and Maya, and they sit down at the table, and he's like, what's going on? What are you doing? What the fuck is this? And they basically like ambushed him basically and was like, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do this. You're gonna resign from your company, you're gonna tell the people that you did all of this, and yada yada yada. And that's exactly what happened. So Charles Whittaker is no longer the CEO of whatever food company he had, Whittaker Farms or something like that. Yeah, and Michael and Neil ended up becoming best friends again. And Michael ended up explaining why he even had the dinner with Charles Whittaker in the first place. And that was that Charles Whittaker had baited him basically to have a dinner together because he said that he had information about the whole situation with the soft launch. Sebastian was the cook and someone died on the floor of the restaurant. And he basically was like, hey, we did that too. So the whole dinner that Michael had with Charles Whittaker was in order to figure out what had happened at that restaurant, because he knew that it affected his son a lot, right? And Charles Whittaker didn't end up giving up any information because he wanted to use that he had that information as an upper hand to get information about the Singhs. But because Michael is such a good friend to the Singhs, he refused. Michael ended up hiring his own PI, private investigator, to look into it. And what had happened wasn't actually an allergy. He was poisoned. And the poison made it look like he went into anaphylactic shock, which is like the thing that you die from when you have an allergy. Yeah, so basically Sebastian was beating himself up about this whole thing for nothing because he didn't do anything. It was all Charles Whittaker, whatever the fuck his name is. And Maya ended up telling their families like, hey, we're together and we've been together for 3 months, because at this time it's 3 months. And they were like, what? Oh my God, what are you talking about? And Neil was kind of mad for a second, but his wife, Maya's mom, was like, shut the fuck up, I'm happy for them. Shut up, I'm happy for them. Neil and Michael, besties again. Maya and Sebastian told their family they didn't react as crazy as before. We don't hate Maya's sister anymore. They had a soft launch. They relaunched the collaboration again after the whole vomit fest situation, and it did amazing. It went completely smooth, it went well, and it did amazing. And then with Charles Whittaker coming out and being like, hey, I sabotaged them and I did this and I did this and I did this and I'm gonna resign, as the company holder and company owner of Whittaker Farms and whatnot, everyone was like, oh, okay, so the whole backlash on the Sing Foods and then buried with the whole Charles Whittaker situation. So they basically got a second chance, and once they did the relaunch of the collaboration, it did really, really well, and everyone loved it, and yada yada yada. And we're cutting through like months and months and months, and like 2 years. I think it all happens in between 3 years. So the last 2 chapters, which is 44 and the epilogue, is all in between 3 years. And Sebastian ends up becoming a chef. He ends up having a restaurant named his restaurant is named New Era. He owns a restaurant. He fucking did all this shit to go into it. He ends up opening his new restaurant, and then Maya is still with her parents and still working as a marketing executive. She ends up winning like a Nobel Prize or something. She ends up winning stuff and like does all these things. And end of the restaurant opening, Sebastian asks her to marry him, and he like brought out a chocolate cake with a milkshake, little flowers or whatever it was, and then the ring, and it was like a note, and it basically said, hey, will you marry me? I'm paraphrasing, no shit, but like will you marry me? And then he like come and yeah, they got married. Short story short, they got married. And it was really cute, and they're really cute, and yeah. Oh, and we ended up figuring out who sabotaged them again with the whole letter back in boarding school. It was this dude named Neville. Okay, his name was Neville, and he had a big crush on Maya, and he ended up seeing Sebastian slip the letter that he gave her into her locker, and he had this card thing because he worked for the principal's office or whatever, and he had a card that opened all the lockers, and he opened Maya's locker, and he was a little weird. He was a little stalkerish, and he had this really big weird crush on her. But anyways, he opened the locker, he took out the letter, he read the letter, and then he forged a letter that looked like Maya, and he gave it to Sebastian, or like put in Sebastian's locker. Opening the locker and looking at the letter, someone came by and he panicked and just shoved it back in the locker and closed it. And that's why it ended up being in one of her journals. So she had it in her possession, but she didn't know about it. That's who did that. And Maya found that out. She like, I have a theory. Maya and her theories for bro. But yeah, that was King of Gluttony, and it was really, really good, and I actually really enjoyed it. I think of all the Anna Huang books, I think this might be top 5 or top 3 for real, because I actually really liked this book. And we also got hints to the next book by Anna Huang, which is King of Lust, and it's Killian's story, and this girl named Tate, and she has like ginger hair and freckles, and she looks really cute. She looks kind of like a deer. But I think this book, it takes a lot for me to give a book a 5 out of 5 stars or a 4 out of 5 stars, so I'm gonna give it a 3.9. I'm gonna give this book a 3.9 notes. I think it was really good. I think the length was good of the book. I don't think it was too long or too short. I think it was perfect, and I really liked the plot. Kept me entertained relatively well, and I feel like some books kind of bore me after a while because it's kind of predictable, but this wasn't. I mean, it was kind of predictable, but it wasn't super predictable. You know, it wasn't like, there wasn't like a huge plot twist or anything like that. You can kind of tell, but it wasn't given away too much in a way. And okay, thank you guys for watching. I've never done an outro before, but thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening to me yap. I know this video is gonna be long because I'm editing it right now, and it's like, dude, it's like 1 hour and 45 minutes, or like 49 minutes. It's like almost 2 hours long of footage that I have to go through. But yeah, okay, thanks for watching. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did enjoy this, well, know that my content is mainly going to be about this. My content is mainly going to be about books and yapping about books and reviewing books and giving them stars and telling you guys about the plots and my reactions to them and yeah, I've read a lot of books. I've read a lot of different books. And I've read a lot of different series, and I will continue to read a lot of different series. And from now on, depending on what book I want to share, is depending on what book I will. Just know that the next book I will be recording, and I will have a review for it and stuff like that. So, yay. Okay. Thanks. Bye.